Welcome to the Ask the Geographer podcast series, brought to you by the Education Department at the Royal Geographical Society with IBG. I'm Rachel, your host, and in each episode, I'll be joined by geographers from across the globe to delve into current events, publications, and research all tied to the fascinating world of geography. I'm delighted to be joined by Professor Andrew Charlton-Perez OBE, Head of School of Mathematical, Physical and Computational Sciences at the University of Reading. Andrew has played a key role in shaping the National Climate Education Action Plan, or NCEAP, which brings together more than 80 organisations working on transformative climate education. As chair of the NCEAP Group, he helps ensure that these organisations' efforts support the Department for Education's wider sustainability and climate change strategy. Andrew, thank you so much for being here. First of all, congratulations on your OBE, such a well-deserved recognition for your contributions to climate science and education.
Thank you so much. I'm really delighted to have received that recognition and the recognition for the work of lots of people who've contributed to that work. And it's great to have the opportunity to talk a bit more about that today.
Fantastic. One of the areas where you've really made a difference is through your leadership on the National Climate Education Action Plan. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? So what's been achieved so far and what's still to come?
Yeah, this is a project that we began in the lead up to COP26, which some of your listeners will remember was in the UK, in Glasgow. And we really decided that there was a huge amount of interest, particularly from young people, actually, in improving the climate education that they were receiving and improving the climate education for future students and young people as well. And we actually were blown away by the kind of joint working and partnership and collaboration that we could achieve in quite a short time. So we connected with lots and lots of different organizations, RGS included, and we decided that actually there was a lot of commonality in what we were asking for, and actually that was mirrored by what young people themselves were asking for. And so we held a small online summit. Well, it wasn't that small, 1,000 people came to the online summit to talk about constructing a very kind of clear and concise action plan that covered how we thought, quick steps could be made to improve climate education, that included things like better CPD for teachers, initial teacher training. It included thinking about how we connected the brilliant work in climate science and research that was going on across the country more directly with schools. And that plan was published just ahead of COP. And we were really delighted that at the same time, the Department for Education were thinking about their own strategy for sustainability and climate change education. And if you look in the current strategy, you can see that a number of the asks that we put forward, as other organisations did too, are mirrored in that strategy, and it explicitly refers to the work that we have been doing to bring people together on that. I think what we perhaps weren't expecting at the start was the desire of all of those organisations to keep talking and keep working together to really deliver on that action plan. And so lots of different projects have spun out from that, actually, which has been really exciting. So, for example, we know that the Royal Meteorological Society and other organisations have been developing tools to quality assure climate change education materials. So there's lots of brilliant climate education materials out in the world. The RGS supports some of those, for example, but we know that teachers really struggle to understand which are of high quality, which can really benefit their students and benefit their curriculum. And so working with the Royal Met Stock and others to develop that quality assurance process, a kite mark effectively for those resources for teachers, was a great outcome, a kind of quick win, simple thing that we think has really improved how teachers can access climate change education resources, as one example of the work we've been doing.
And linking on from that, the Society, we've really enjoyed being part of some of the wider initiatives connected to this, including our work with the Natural History Museum, the RHS, and others on the National Education Nature Park. This links closely to the Climate Ambassadors Programme, which you've also been involved with. For listeners who may not be familiar, what exactly is a climate ambassador and how might schools connect with their work?
So essentially, a climate ambassador is a volunteer who has some training and some expertise to bring to a nursery, a school, or a college to help them develop and deliver a climate action plan. And we work very closely, as you said, with the team at Nature Park to deliver a whole range of free support to nursery schools and colleges. Those of your listeners who've read the sustainability strategy of the Department for Education will see that there's a real desire for all of those settings to have a climate action plan in place. And those climate action plans are quite helpfully structured around an ABCD format, 4 pillars. So adaptation, biodiversity, which is where the work with Nature Park clearly comes in, climate education and green careers, and decarbonisation. And we're really excited to be part of that because we know that there's lots of evidence, both from interviews of professionals working in the sector and from more detailed research studies, that whole school approach, changing not just your education, but changing how the education setting operates, making the young people and the community involved in adapting your setting so that you don't suffer from days of extreme heat, for example, or you can more quickly recover from periods of flooding, is really a critical part of climate education. It's part of lived experience for young people, and it makes any climate education that is delivered more real, more relevant to them and their communities. And so what climate ambassadors do is they help individual education settings to do that. So we've got more than 1,000 volunteers all across England who are ready to, they're trained, they're DBS checked, so they can come into education settings whenever you might need them. And they're able to work on a variety of different aspects of those plans. They're able to help perhaps the sustainability develop the climate action plan or deliver on it, but they also might equally be able to help an individual class teacher to develop their climate education practice. They might be able to deliver CPD for a wide range of teachers in the school. So there's lots of different ways we can help you. And because this is a volunteer program, one of the great aspects of it being a volunteer program is that we have so many different people with so many different specialisms and things that they can bring to the table, and who are prepared to do this absolutely for free. We're hugely grateful to them for doing that. So if you're listening to this and you're a teacher or a school leader and you think, look, I really want to do something to meet the climate action plan deadline or ask from DFE, please do reach out to us. You can find us via Google on Climate Ambassadors, connect with us, and we can get you someone very quickly to come and help you.
Wonderful. So that's very much about helping the schools in general. Thinking about our young people more broadly, how can school students who are curious about climate change and sustainability issues get more involved and learn more?
Well, I think one thing that they can do is talk to their teachers, particularly if you're in the later stages of education, perhaps at secondary school or in sixth form. I'd really encourage you to talk to your teachers, talk to your head teacher about climate action plans in your school. What is your school doing? Have they got a climate action plan? If they haven't, could you get involved in that? We've seen some really great examples. In fact, I was at a school just a few months ago. Actually, it was my old school, so Thomas Clarkson Academy in Wisbech. Shout out to them and all the people there. But we had a great day of making a climate action plan for Thomas Clarkson, but we did it with young people. So we got young people involved in that from the start. We got their ideas. We tried to get them to help us construct a plan. And that was just so exciting and so fulfilling for me to go and see young people, actually quite a lot like me before I started my career, and seeing all of their ideas and enthusiasm to want to get involved in this work. So I think definitely young people can get involved at any stage. And then, of course, through the IGS, through the Royal Met Soc, through other organisations, there's lots of different advice about the kinds of sustainability related or climate related green careers that they might go into. And geography is obviously a fantastic grounding for that. It's one of the subjects that enables you to bring together lots of different bits of understanding to really think about how humans and the natural world interact. So I really encourage you to think about that. We know that there will be a need for many, many more green jobs in the future. The green sector is one of the fastest growing sectors of the economy. And so if you're looking for a job which matches your interest in the natural environment, there's lots of things that you can do right now.
And thank you for touching on the idea of green careers, because that's coming up more and more in terms of terms in education. For someone who hasn't come across that term before, how would you explain what a green career is? And then a little bit further into, where would they go if they want to explore that path further?
So I think what's really interesting when you start to talk about green careers is there's sort of a whole hierarchy of different ways of thinking about that. So, from my point of view as a climate scientist, as someone who kind of realizes that there will be a lot more climate risk around, whatever action we take, and we hope that as a society, as a global society, we will take really strong action to meet targets to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and to make the eventual temperature rise as low as it can possibly be. But we still know, of course, there will be a lot of climate risk, extreme weather risk around. And so, in some sense, every job will be a green job. It will require everyone who works in any industry to understand what that means for their industry. It might be about your supply chains. It might be where you can source parts for a particular product that you're making, and understanding the additional risk that you have in doing that because of extreme weather in Southeast Asia, for example. I think when we think more broadly, there are, though, very kind of direct green jobs that are about working in some of the industries that we will need to follow the path of decarbonisation. So the most obvious ones are around in renewable energy generation and production, how we use that energy, how we share it around the network, how we get it to the places that it's needed most. Those are absolutely very direct green jobs. Similarly, if we're thinking about how we retrofit our buildings, our homes, how we develop transport systems of the future that are electrified, lots of those things I think I would classify directly as green jobs. I think one thing that's not talked about quite so much is how we bring nature into that equation. I think there's obviously a really strong part for us to care for our own local natural environments. That has a carbon benefit, has a biodiversity benefit, and it has a human well-being benefit as well. And there's lots of need for people to be in those kinds of jobs, and they suit very particular people, right? There are lots of people, I'm sure, who are listening to this who love being outside. Their favorite thing to do is be outside, is to be in the natural environment, appreciate the natural environment. And there are just millions of people who like that and would want careers where they're outside in all weathers, in the cold and wind and rain. They still want to be outside doing these jobs. So I think those jobs very much are green jobs too.
Now, you're quoted as saying, I believe strongly that universities have a responsibility to support young people to receive the climate and nature education they overwhelmingly want, and to support the wider education system on a path towards a more positive green future. We've also talked about green careers, but when we're thinking about the schools and the students that may be listening to this, what would you encourage them to do to be part of that greener future?
So I think, in addition to taking action in their own communities, to go into those green jobs, to have those green skills that we need for all of the jobs of the future, then thinking about how they can make that a part of the options they study at GCSE or into sixth form years, or to do BTECs or T levels and other things, and then further into universities. I think, when I went to university, which was some time ago now, I think there was kind of a view in a way that universities should be slightly separate from society. They should obviously educate young people, but it wasn't really their role to be more fully engaged in community and government. I think what I was trying to hint at in that quote is, I'm really lucky. My day job is to be the head of School of Mathematical, Physical and Computational Sciences at the University of Reading. One of the departments in my school is the Department of Meteorology, which is a world-leading climate science research institution. I have many colleagues who I respect deeply for their detailed and clear work on establishing the basis for understanding why climate is changing and our role in that. But to me, it's not enough that we just do that science. It's really important that universities are out in their own communities, in the global community, working with all sorts of different stakeholders. I myself have chosen to do that in education and to work closely with schools and colleges and young people, but there are lots of other stakeholders that you can work with. I think really good universities, mine included, will make sure that as young people come through their system, that they understand that and they understand their role as the kind of future leaders, the future citizens who will drive change. At Reading, we're really excited to have our first cohort this year of Global Sustainability Leaders Scholars. So 230 people across different disciplines, so all the way from art students through English language students to the meteorologists and computer scientists and mathematicians who are in my school, but kind of united by a common purpose of understanding their role in driving a green revolution and us in helping to give them the skills that enable them to do that. So I do encourage any young person, do look around at universities, look at what they can offer in this space. There's lots around that you can pick up in addition to your kind of core academic interest.
Thank you. So we've talked about a lot of different avenues in which both schools and our students can explore. Is there one message or takeaway you would like to leave our listeners, specifically thinking about climate sustainability and the future they want to build?
So I think one thing that can often be part of the conversation here is the discussion around climate anxiety. And I want to acknowledge that that's an absolutely real thing, climate or eco-anxiety. The sense of young people, a sense of hopelessness, a sense of fear about the future and what it means for them. And I think all of that is a completely rational response to the challenges that we're facing. We know the future can look scary and it can look bleak, actually. But I think there's also a huge amount of hope. There's a huge amount of change that's already happening. There are positive tipping points that abound. Some of your listeners may have read the recent Global Tipping Points report, which highlights some of those positive tipping points which are already happening. There are already examples where electricity systems, including our own, are decarbonising rapidly and giving us access to very, very kind of green power and hopefully in the future cheaper power. And so I think I would just say to young people, please don't despair. Please acknowledge your eco-anxiety, but also see that you have a huge role in the future. Your future can be hugely exciting if you choose to work in this area. These are the growth and exciting areas of the future. There are so many things that can explore and so many ways in which you can bring together lots of your different interests to address these challenges. So be part of the change, essentially. Be part of the change we know we need.
Andrew, thank you for joining us and for sharing your work on climate education and green careers. It's clear there are so many opportunities for young people and for all of us to play a part in shaping a more sustainable future. Congratulations again on your OBE.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to subscribe to the Ask the Geographer podcast series on soundcloud.com or your preferred streaming platform. Dive deeper into the world of geography and stay informed with our wide range of resources, many of which are available for free. School membership grants access to even more resources, including online lectures and supporting materials for both teachers and learners. Explore our resources and discover our additional offers for education at www.rgs.org/schools.